Yes! There's ROCKSTEADY, King of the Pit TV. Signing in. Excuse me whilst I catch my breath. All them steroids catching up with me. All that D-ball, all that tren. I'm joking, people. Although when I was younger and I was very much into my training, I got in very good shape when I was younger, right? Early 20s in particular, I was in fantastic shape. Fantastic shape. 21, 22. Wish I could get to that body fat again. I've been hoping to God that I'd be able to. I don't know what the hell I was doing, but my body was just like, yeah, fuck it, we don't need the fat. Have some abs. Whoa! I thought, you know what? I could get on gear. I should get on gear. And I spent a lot of time around gyms. And I won't go any further than that. Never did, but yeah. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Who doesn't want more testosterone? Come on now. Cynic! 8 tracks. I'm looking forward to this one. This will be a nice, easy listen. Although no doubt complicated. Because I do know this is a tech deaf band. Is this what you'd consider tech deaf? We're going to find out as we go in. But I'm aware of Cynic. Not this album, but I did download one of these albums, or at least so many tunes from a Cynic album, back in the day on LimeWire, and the quality was atrocious. Like, the quality of the music was so shit. Like, the volume was like all the way down to the floor. You couldn't hear anything, so I didn't really end up listening to it. But I remember a prominent bass line. I'm expecting something on this record of like Obscura. What Obscura ended up being, you know. This entire listen through goes out to Ray, who recommended this on the Patreon. Thank you very much for this, Ray. It's nice to get a little bit of metal on. Given it is metal, you never know, I might be surprised. Might be prog rock. Veil of Maya is the first track, which is actually a band, quite a successful metal band nowadays, if they're still going. The Veil of Maya, I think they were a tech band as well, to be fair. Like a more modernised tech band. What more needs to be said? I'm going to jump in. Peace, one love. Veil of Maya. Is Maya a Hindu reference? Is Maya something in Hinduism? And we know religiously the veil is like looking behind the veil. Like, that's esoteric, that's like, they teach you in Abrahamic religions, or at least Christianity, not to look beyond the veil. That's like eating from the tree of, what did I call it? The tree of something and knowledge. I don't know. Let me just find out what Maya means, one moment, because I think it's a Hindu term. So in Hinduism, Maya refers to the illusion, i.e. the Matrix per se, you know? Very smart, very smart. Let's go. Just getting a phone call, one second. But that break there, a little bit of like something between the Buried and Me would do. Two ex-members of Death were in this band. They were not members of Death, they were already Cynic when Schuldiner called them to join in. So that's why the sound is similar. Fascinating. Really sad how the initial hatred of this album got discouraged Cynic from going forward for a very long time. It's quite funny because he refers to this as the Pinkerton of metal. What a crossover, the Pinkerton of metal. And 53 people understand that comment to thumbs it up. What a crazy crossover that comment is. Learn. That was track 1 on Focus, entitled Veil of Maya. Good sound. Farty sounding fretless bass there. So when I referenced that, you know, I was expecting something like what Obscura is. Yeah, I mean, the fretless bass is a timeless component of tech death metal, isn't it? And proggy, jazzy-esque sounds. Good transitions between songs. I wonder if that robotic voice will reside throughout the rest of the record. We've got Celestial Voyage coming up next. Great song title. There's Rocksteady at King of the Pit TV signing in, listening to Focus, the 1993 full album by Cynic. Celestial Voyage is the title of this one. I think it's a great title. What's that tune someone did called Something Voyage? It's a rap song and it's got a right banging chorus section. It's like group vocal. Da, da, da. Fantastic Voyage. Fantastic Voyage. Who did that? That was banger. That's such a good number. That hook on Fantastic Voyage is special, man. Celestial Voyage, let's go. All praise to the celestial spheres, my friends, my people, my fans of the esoteric and the occult. Let's go. Cup of coffee, anyone? It's very consistent. It takes you on a journey from A to B. It takes you on a voyage from A to B, you know. There's different sections, yeah, but it's not stoppy-starty, it's not stuttery-buttery. It flows very well. And for that was a very easy listen. You know, the guitar work, albeit metal and frantic in their own way, are very relaxing. I think the production helps with that, but it's just very calm and right. You know what I mean? Calm, composed, cool, no problems. Celestial Voyage, yeah, pretty cool indeed. The Eagle, I read the lyrics as well whilst I was there, by the way. Not too bad. The first couple of lines are pretty cool. The Eagle Nature is track number 3 and it's coming up next. Yes, now bless now, people. There's ROCKSTEADY, King of the Pit TV, signing in. We're listening to Cynic tonight with their album Focus from 1993. It was recommended on the Patreon by my friend Ray. Cynic isn't to be confused with Optimist, okay? This is track number 3, The Eagle Nature. Lego. Nice brief one at 3 minutes 28, this one. Shortest on the record. There's a related video 3 years ago, DW History and Culture, entitled Why Metalheads Are Happier People. If metalheads set a standard of what happiness is, we're all fucked. Because I had to think about that when I saw that title, and I thought, I guess someone's smoking a biff, they're outside. Oh, I ain't smoked out in a minute, but I could have a couple of talks right now, to be honest. Bruh, your general populace is depressed and bored and mundane and just brain dead as fuck. And I take that as a projection of oneself. Maybe I'm just putting myself out there as that individual, but I can see why a metalhead who isn't attached to the systemic path, the systemic manipulation of wanting more and more and more and more and more and being someone they'll never be. Your general metalhead who doesn't necessarily want that, but just wants to enjoy going to events and, you know, not necessarily participating to a heavy degree within society, and just enjoys what he enjoys and consumes what he consumes, which is a little external to the mainstream. I can see why they would be happy generally, but still, like, metalheads being like happy people is crazy. Happier though, yes, but it's so dystopian. It's not much different to what I experienced when I downloaded this offline, where obviously the volume was way down, so it was hard to listen to, but the production on this record isn't very good. It isn't very good. For such an overtly technical band, you want to hear every pop and every pinch of, you really want a punctuated sound. You don't really want to leave it space for it to be a bit airy-fairy. The production value is not very good on this record. That sounds nice though. A little more audacity to that guitar. Lovely sound this, eh? Wow. Sounds like bubbles coming to the surface. That. What is that? The bass? Bum 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 bum. What is that? The guitar? Because we've got the bass frequency underlying that. Wow, that was fantastic. Wow. Wowee. That was superb. It gives me chills. Like, I don't get this feeling much. It literally gives me chills. This is a really great section. What a fantastic sound. Wow. The tone of whatever I'm hearing, the guitar line there. Superb. Superb. Wow. Wow. Really fantastic outro there. End section. Absolutely pristine. We've got Sentiment coming up next, yeah? Yes, now bless now people. There's ROCKSTEADY at King of the Pit TV signing in with Cynic. Track number 4 of 8 on Focus is entitled Sentiment. Okay. Not sediment. No. Not. Let's go. Not dentiment or mentiment or lentiment. It's what the Christians do, 40 days of lentiment. Ooh. Quite jarring. Dissonant chord. Boom. The Chapman stick. I like the volume fade on that, the volume swell. Sounds like Pink Floyd. This band really is a different drummer away from being not a death metal band. Do you know? The double kick and the metal-esque tinge to the drumming is what airs it more so to the death metal category, as opposed to just straight up being a more proggy jazz fusion-esque style of music. It's fantastic music. It's really fantastic music. It's wild. Like, this straight up is jazz fusion music, but it's like death metal when it wants to be. What a great spectrum of sound, you know? Absolutely fantastic. It's a great record. As you continue going through it and you start to harness more of the different soundscapes and understand the depth of, you know, it's like we're not starting from the start of the song when we move on to the next one. We're continuing on through the album. Do you know where I'm coming from? Because if you listen to one song, it's like, okay, you get a little tinge of what the band is capable of, but it doesn't allow you to grasp the full depth of what the band is. And when you continue on listening to the record and hearing it as a whole, you start to experience this deep depth of musical sound, which is ever so fun, really. It's really cool. We've got I'm But a Wave 2 coming up next. Yes, now bless now, people. Don't forget the rest now. There's Rocksteady, King of Pit TV signing in. Listening to Cynic. Track 5 of 8 is entitled I'm But a Wave 2. To what? To what, my friend? This is from the Focus 1993 album. We're listening to the whole album tonight. Let's go. Lovely. One thing I like about this style of music, because I just read here, so this is Cynic, and they've definitely got some fantastic verbal content, say the least, fantastic written content, because I'm very much into philosophical and magical language and, you know, esoteric knowledge, to say the least. These bands come forth with their Euroboric forms we've got coming up next, which is the Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail, the endless cycle of death and rebirth and so forth. And they utilize these, they utilize these elements into their music. And speaking of elements, that's what I'm moving on to say. Somebody referenced Atheist, who's within the same group. We listen to Atheist on this channel. They have a record called Elements, and Elements is esoteric, you know. The 4 elements, if you live in the Eastern world and subscribe to Eastern tradition, you'll have 5 elements, you know. And then the 4 elements formulates the square. If not, you could add what may be considered as a 5th element, the ether, or the self, or the spirit, and that amounts to the pentagram, and that's what that represents, you know. When we look at Wicca and witchcraft and, you know, what you might see on the front of like satanic music imagery and so forth, that's what it represents. Of course, most of the time them satanic as people will invert it and face it downwards. Spheres by pestilence, we're talking about the celestial spheres, we're talking about the planets, we're talking about that which is out there, which is unknown. And I really like this component of this style of music. I think that's fantastic, you know. That phrase was specifically lifted from a poem by Paramahansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of a Yogi, a book Masvidal holds close to his heart. Schuldiner just so happened to use it as the title for Cosmic Sea, and the phrase was utilized once again in his songs. They are connected in that they are both rooted in Eastern philosophy and have 2 of the same musicians playing on each track. I like Eastern philosophy. Eastern philosophy and esotericism, I think generally speaking, it's better to me than the Greek-influenced Western philosophy we have here. You know, we take a lot from the Greeks, and we sort of err a little more to the monotheistic side of things, looking towards God and what is God and so forth, whereas in the Eastern traditions, they tend to look inwards a little bit more, you know, as we are a projection of God, what we express upon the world, and what we see is blah 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 blah. I like the Eastern traditions. I've not looked so much into Buddhism. I should do, but I am learning the foundations of Hinduism at the moment, and it's you know, the principles are relatively simple, but then we start to go into the epics, and we start to go into the Vedas and the writings and such, and there's so much material, man. But that's the oldest religion of all time, you know, so plenty of substance and historical context. Over here in the Western world, we've got this incredible spiritual battle that's going on between the 3 Abrahamic religions. It's like Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. They're just perfect. They're a perfect triad of religions to just like have this ever perpetual battle from now until eternity. Like the composition of these religions and how they're never ever going to get along by principle, and they interlock so perfect in regards to what they do believe in and agree on and what they don't, you know, counterbalancing off of each other. It's like it's programmed to be. It's absolutely incredible, really. I've actually been invited to join a couple of groups, but you know, as far as knowledge is concerned, but I don't wish to withhold information, you know. If I learn something, I want to be able to express it freely without being held to oath by any chance, so I don't think it's for me, you know. Although it does fascinate me, I would love to access the libraries and engage in discussion with other like-minded people who are fascinated in cool conversation, you know. Enlighten me, because I find that as I distance myself from the material world, I sort of opt out of the societal structure that they are ever so desperate to imprison me in. Do you know where I'm coming from? And as somebody who got into punk rock music via rebellion and a rebellious nature and a counterculture-esque approach to things, it really just sort of re-emphasizes that path less taken. You know, it's really interesting stuff. I like it, and that's why I like these bands. You know, I'm not just going off on a tangent here. It sparks good room for discussion. These contexts. I like that this guy or whomever was writing the lyrics and stuff read books, you know, on Eastern philosophy and so forth. I think that's great, because there's so many bands out there with no real, you know, substance of concept. You know, we can talk about marketing and branding and stuff, but then it comes a little bit forced. But when somebody has a genuine interest in something and it naturally formulates what we perceive as the band, then that's so much better. It holds so much more depth, you know, as opposed to it just being a mask for the sake of selling records. Once again, in this material realm, the worship of money. You know, don't get me wrong, we need it. We need to opt into so much of what we have to do to ensure we have a roof over our heads and food for our family, our children and so forth. But yeah, I digress. I got a book on Tantra I really want to read, but it's really healthy. It's a really healthy book. Speaking of such, as we continue talking about music, we've got Tool in the related videos. Tool aren't afraid of the magical, and I know that, right? That it's not just a brand for Tool. There's a little bit of novelty when it comes to, you speak to a fan of Tool and they'll be like, oh my god, did you not know they used the Fibonacci sequence? And that's like that's the only talking point, even though nobody really gives that much of a fuck. Like, let's be real, the fan base of Tool are like, they're working it out with their notepad and like drawing up the lines and working out how it relates to the Fibonacci sequence. They've just heard somebody say it and they're just like, whoa, this is intelligent music, I want to project myself upon that. But yeah, I know that Tool are involved in cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Or at least some of the members, you know. Taylor says jazz fusion, technical progressive death metal, and Alex Graham says probably. I never like using that many words to describe a band though. Pretty sure it can be simplified. Do you know what I'll simplify it to? I'll call it tech death. Disregarding the jazz fusion elements, I'll call it tech death. It is what it is, you know. Death metal, generally speaking, like you approach a general death metal bands, like people say bands like Suffocation and stuff are tech death. Death metal generally should be somewhat technical, in my opinion. Tech death should be reserved for acts like this that actually incorporate elements that are abnormal, you know, and are external to your traditional, you know. I don't care how fast you can riff and how good your guitar solos are. Who cares? That doesn't mean you're a tech death band, in my personal opinion, right? In my personal opinion, you're a tech death band if you're subscribing to and applying musical theory in a manner which is more adept than your peers. Utilization of scales outside of the norm, time signatures outside of the norm, are like Cynic, elements of particular musical genres that you find outside of the norm, especially if it relates to a more technical sense. I'm not saying you should be a death metal band and incorporate southern blues music. I don't know if that would allow you to subscribe to the tech death label, but you know where I'm coming from here. It's all about the technicality of the theoretical foundation upon which the band is built upon, I reckon. Cool tune, opened up plenty of room for discussion. Not too bad at all, this is a good record. Euroboric Forms coming up next. There's Rocksteady King of Pit TV signing in, listening to Cynic, Focus, the 1993 full album. This entire list through goes out to my friend Ray, who recommended this over on the Patreon. This one's Euroboric Forms, so I'm sure Euroboric, as I referenced earlier in this listen through, references to the Ouroboros, okay, which is an alchemical symbol of a snake eating its own tail. A symbol I really enjoy. I think it's very pleasing to the eye. I like circles anyway. I do like circles. And the snake eating its own tail is fantastic. Let's go. Mama Bono says 255 favorite Tuppa Tuppa part of all time. Nah, do you know there's only one Tuppa Tuppa band, and that's SSD, Society System D Control, arguably one of the best hardcore bands of all time, and The Kids Will Have Their Say is probably in my top 5 hardcore punk albums of all time. Fantastic record. If you like extreme music, I would recommend that. The Kids Will Have Their Say by SSD, an abbreviation of Society System D Control. Blazing, absolutely blazing fast, incredible hardcore punk, roots hardcore punk, but without the, dad rock elements. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you'll check out the foundation of a genre and it'll just be like, oh, this is shit, it sounds better where it ended up. But this at the root is like, it's so fucking no bells and whistles, just balls to the walls fast, and the drummer perfect snotty nosed vocals, incredible. I actually think, my friend referenced this. SSD was referenced on a grindcore documentary that they put out. I don't know if it was Slave to the Grind, and they referenced SSD in a band called Siege, who were, essentially the the precursor to what went on to be grindcore, you know? Everybody talks about Napalm Death as being like the start of grindcore and whatnot, but it's not the case. If you listen to Siege was 86, and that's pretty fucking grind. Great ribs. Let's listen to these. Let's read these lyrics. Self is the universe, not separate. Yes, as within, so without. The state before the fall into self-consciousness. Nothing is himself, everything is world. Primordial egg returns. Consciousness unborn, pre-personal perfection. Bliss is scree yet untorn, Euroboric forms. Find itself as a separate entity, an ego germ is just beginning to be. Wherever there is other, there is fear. Birth, primal paradise. No gap, distance or separation between self and environment. Unconditional omnipotence. Nothing is himself, everything is world. Yeah, and it repeats. Euroboric forms. This sounds like death, this section. I sent a message to my friend saying got Cynic on, and the response is lol, third eye metal, proper gay shit. Not my words, people. Funnily enough, he's in a tech death band, believe it or not. Signed to Metal Blade Records. That was Euroboric Forms. Yeah, very tasteful. Very tasteful. I like the riffs on that one. And he's continuing to message me. He says, Focus is alright. Proper hippie record. Don't know the others. So fair play. Proper hippie record from his perspective. We've got Textures coming up next. That one, Euroboric Forms, was a little death-esque, I reckon. Yeah, a little bit more death. We've got some right quality on the album cover here. Very cool. Textures coming up next. There's Rocksteady King of the Pit TV signing in. We're listening to Cynic. Focus is the record, 1993, the full album. Track 7 of 8 is entitled Textures. Let's jump straight in. When we get volume. Hold on. Now then. He says, apparently this band, in a leaflet in their record, they put out like an astral projection leaflet. So I don't know if that's instructions how to astral project or something. That's insane. Great quality on this. Dr. Four says, if anyone tells you your band sucks, just remember that Cynic was booed off stage every night when playing live back when this first came out. Wow. I mean, this was 91, right? Was this 91? I mean, who are these bands playing with? If they're playing with just like more bare bones traditional death metal acts, yeah. Don't bore us, get to the chorus, get off a stage. I want to listen to flipping Cannibal Corpse, you know what I mean? The earlier comment on the record I said about the production value, I detract that now. I'll take that away. I don't know if we're listening to a remaster here, but there is a good clarity to it. I think just the playlist we've been listening to, we've been taking that route to, engage with the comment section and stuff, because it always creates good discussion. And at the end of the day, don't worry about it. Fantastic craft, fantastic musicianship, but I'm not really in the game for instrumentals, generally speaking. You know, I like a hardcore mosh intro, like a minute long. I'm not really too fussed about a 4-minute 40 instrumental track. That's not for me. That's not for me. But it's a good showcase of their technical and theoretic capability. But it's nothing we're not unaware of. Right, let's finish this record off with How Could I, yeah? Des Rocksteady, King of the Pit TV, signing in and finishing off the album Focus by Cynic. This entire listen through goes out to my friend Ray, who recommended this on the Patreon. This one's entitled How Could I? Let's go. I heard that Def's The Philosopher was written about Cynic. What label put this out? Lyrical content there. I don't think we've come across what labels put this out. Someone's saying Between the Buried and Me vibes. We should check out Between the Buried and Me at some point. I listened to their album Colours a few times back in the day, and it's good music. They had a tune called, was it Between the Buried and Me, who did Selkies with that sweep guitar solo? That was pretty cool. I think they also did a tune referencing ants, and if it was not the same title, Ants in the Sun or something like that, you know. That was good. Super tight picking her. Oh, I told one of my mates a bit back that I bumped into an old friend, and he's not the sharpest tool in the box. And I told my mate, "Oh, he's an orthodontist now, you know, just like he works on teeth." And he just brushed it off and didn't mention it. And then 4 months down the line, he messages me and he says, "There's no way he's an orthodontist." So it must have just been in his mind. Just like, well, no flipping way. So that was quite funny. That was Cynic. How could I? Great way to finish the record. Nice little fade out. Great type picking. I'm going to do one last overview of this record in the next video. I'll rate out of 10 for you. Yeah, see you there. Yes, now bless now, people. King of the Pit TV, Des Rocksteady signing in. Cynic, Focus was the album we listened to. This was a pleasure. 1993, this was put out. It was recommended on the Patreon by my good friend Ray. Thank you very much for this recommendation, Ray. You know what? I was a little bit and ahhing prior to getting into this because tech death isn't one of my favourite genres of music. In all honesty, like traditional death metal in itself isn't one of my favourites. So then when you add the technical element to it, it's sort of... It compartmentalizes it into an even worse categorization in my world, in my spectrum of likes and dislikes. So I was a bit frightened getting into this. With that being said, I got stuck in. I thought 8 tracks, not really going over 5 minutes aside from the last tune. This could be... I mean, we went, yeah, first and last over 5 minutes, but, you know, is what it is. I thought, okay, we'll jump in. We'll see what's in store. Now, a lot of my fascination with this band and this project was the esoteric element. I did like the conceptual side of this band. I thought that really aided the sound that they were portraying, you know. I don't necessarily want to hear a jazz fusion-esque, trippy tech death band that is just like really good at their instruments and then just like write gore lyrics or just shit lyrics. The fact that they've gone hand in hand with this higher spiritual, like magical approach to things with the actual conceptual, lyrical and vocal line and general, you know, branding of the album in relation to the technicality of the music, it really elevated and pedestalized this album above and beyond most tech death records that are just a little like, yeah, we're technical, so we have to be, you know, related to space and whatnot, a la The Faceless and whatnot, you know, who are good, sound great, but as far as that, well, obscure as well, you know, as far as what I've come across, didn't necessarily share the same content, share the same, you know where I'm coming from. I like the conceptual stuff here, so it allowed me to get stuck in. Now, this band or this project is not a means of listening to one or two songs, because you're not garnering a understanding of what is. The band operates on such a broad spectrum of sound and ideas and experiments with so many different motions throughout their music that as you continue listening to this album, you start to fall into this state of engagement with it, because it's not like just this linear consistency. It's not this song by song basis where each and every song is a new song and you can start and go wherever. I mean, you can do, but as you listen to it as a whole, you start to hear and place this fragmented puzzle of a record together and start to understand the enigma that is this band and this project, which when you listen to one song or two songs, you only get a minor insight to the whole. And when you listen to the record as a whole, you can garner the project as it is and you can perceive it as it is. You have the far sight of overseeing the entire, you know, landscape of what this project is, as opposed to just seeing a minor component of it. There's no way this band could portray what they wanted to in one or two songs. You have to continue listening to it. So as I got to like track 4 or 5, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm really starting to get sent through this journey, as opposed to stopping and starting and stuttering and buttering track by track by track. Here's a song, here's another song, here's a separate song, here's another song, as opposed to it being like a full-on project. Now, I don't like concept records, and I'd argue this wasn't a concept record, but it just feels like it is one piece as I went through it, and that's not a problem whatsoever. The jazz fusion stuff, I mean, you have to play the right chords for me to be interested. I want to have a nice, enjoyable experience. I'm not too fussed on technicality and playing your scales and listening to your guitar and bass tones and stuff. I just want to have a nice harmonic experience that is pleasing to my ears, because I'm not a fan of technical music. I like simple music. So to be a band like this and to appeal to me, you know, I need some nice sounds if you're going to try and do that. And this band produced that. Didn't do a bad job producing it. Really good. The metal sounds, nothing high fast, nothing high tempo, just precise, concentrated, punctuated picking. Fantastic. Fretless bass, I'm not the biggest fan of. It sounds like a fart to me. I get some frets on that bass. I think generally, like in this day and age at least, I think it's been done before. Now the idea of fretless bass comes across as a bit of a novelty, in my personal opinion. A bit of a novelty, more than anything else. Oh, we're a tech band, we have to have a fretless bass. No, you don't. You don't. Stay in key, that's better. You know? Drummer was a make or break, because if that drummer was influenced through any other different means, it would completely shift the sound of this band. And you could say that across any band, but not to the same degree of this band. If the drummer was influenced by glam rock per se, this sound would be so far different. Like every little minute difference in the drumming would change everything. Very good drummer, technical drummer, as jazzy as the bassist. Fantastic band. A lot of people saying they were ahead of their time. Quite potentially. A lot of people saying they were getting booed off a stage back in the day. I don't blame that, you know, when you just want to headbang and just get on with, you know, the peak of death metal in the early 90s, with the best death metal bands of all time putting out the best records ever. I can see why this band would just be like, oh, fucking hell, here come these lot. you know, wanking off the guitars for another blah de blah. You know what I mean? Get to the blast beats, get to the thrash, blah de blah. I can understand that. At first glance, I was thinking I'll give this record a 6, but I'm not. I'll give it a 7.5. I'll give it a 7.5. Is it still my taste? Not necessarily, but I do align with the cool outsider concept of this band. I don't know if it continues to exist throughout the rest of this band's discography, but on this particular record, I agree with it and I like it. Yeah, I like it. On that note, I'm signing out. Peace, people. One love.